wake-up call. When staying the same becomes more risky than starting over, there comes a moment in a person's life when silence becomes impossible to ignore. A moment when a familiar routine no longer feels safe but suffocating. A moment when the life you've built seems too small for the person you've become. It rarely arrives with thunder. It doesn't announce itself with a dramatic collapse. It doesn't shout. It whispers. Maybe it happens while you sit at your desk staring at a screen that drains you more than it inspires you. Maybe during a late-night drive home when the streets feel empty and your mind feels even emptier. Maybe at the end of a long week when you realize you've been tired for not just a day, but for years. And then the question rises, is this all I'm going to do with my life? For millions of Americans, especially those in their 30s and 40s, this question marks the beginning of something extraordinary, not an ending, a beginning, a second chapter of ambition, a second chapter of identity, a second chapter of purpose. People often imagine reinvention as a sudden leap, a bold jump into the unknown, something only brave people attempt. But reinvention doesn't begin with bravery. It begins with pressure. It begins with dissatisfaction. It begins with a quiet knowing that the life you're living no longer matches the life you want. Here's the truth most people never say out loud. The cost of staying the same eventually becomes more painful than the cost of changing. Some people wait until everything falls apart. Some wait until burnout becomes unbearable. Some wait until circumstances force their hand. But many feel something deeper, an internal shift that says, I'm meant for more than this. This message is not arrogance. It is not impatience. It is not delusion. It is potential trying to wake you up. This guide is for the person who feels that potential, for the one who knows they could grow, evolve, and build something better if only they had direction, for the one who is tired of drifting through days waiting for excitement to return. Because here's the simple truth. Runner, your career is not a single path. It is a series of chapters, and a new chapter is always available to you. The world you live in is moving fast. Industries rise, collapse, merge, and transform in a matter of years. Skills expire. Opportunities shift. Jobs you once believed were stable disappear overnight. The idea of a lifelong career, one company, one ladder, one identity is gone. Reinvention is no longer an option. It's a requirement for anyone who wants to grow, adapt, and stay fulfilled. But reinvention does not mean throwing away your past. It does not mean starting from zero. It does not mean abandoning everything you've learned. Reinvention means this. You choose your direction instead of allowing circumstances to choose for you. And if you are reading this, you've already taken the first step. You've acknowledged something many people avoid for years. You want more and you're ready to search for it. Here's what you must understand before going any further. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not stuck. You are not too old, too tired, or too inexperienced to build something new. You are early for a new story, a new purpose, a new level of yourself. Most meaningful transformations in life happen after 30, some happen after 40, some after 50, because reinvention is not a young person's journey. It is a mature person's awakening. The goal of this guide is simple, to help you move from confusion to clarity, from stagnation to momentum, from a life you tolerate to a life you choose. You will not find generic motivational speeches here. You will not be told to quit your job tomorrow. You will not be told to follow your passion without direction. Instead, you will learn how to understand the skills you already have, how to use your experience as a foundation for a new direction, how to pivot intelligently without losing stability, how to build confidence through action instead of waiting for it, how to create opportunities even without connections, how to reinvent realistically, strategically, sustainably. You will learn not how to escape your life, but how to redesign it with intention, because reinvention is not chaos. Reinvention is choice. Chapter 1. The Mid-Career Drift. The quiet crisis you can't see. Some crises are loud, some break you suddenly, but some crises are quiet. They unfold slowly, invisibly, over months or even years. You keep working, you keep showing up, you keep performing. From the outside, everything looks normal, but inside, something is slipping. This quiet downward pull is what many people feel in their 30s and 40s, a phenomenon called the mid-career drift. It feels like this: you're not unhappy, but you're not fulfilled. You're not failing, but you're not growing. You're not lost, but you're not aligned. The drift is dangerous because it's comfortable, stable, predictable. You can stay in the drift for 5 years or 20. Many people do. The drift doesn't destroy your life, it simply keeps it smaller than it could be. But here is the truth most people discover far too late. Comfort is not the opposite of fear, comfort is the opposite of growth. Most major reinventions don't begin during failure, they begin during a plateau. You realize you've outgrown your role. You realize your job no longer excites you. You realize your strengths are being wasted. You realize your goals have changed, but your life hasn't. It's your mind telling you to reevaluate your direction. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with my job?" ask, "What part of me is trying to evolve?" The drift is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of awakening. It is your potential asking for space. The first step to moving forward is reflection. Ask yourself, what abilities am I no longer using? What tasks drain me the fastest? What goals no longer excite me? What moments in my workday feel meaningful? The answers will feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is a compass. It points toward the direction you've avoided, the direction you're meant to explore. Chapter 2. The fear of reinvention, and why that fear is a gift. Fear arrives the moment you imagine a new direction. It shows up with its usual whispers. What if I fail? What if I'm not talented enough? What if people judge me? What if I lose stability? What if I'm too old to start again? Every person who has ever reinvented themselves has felt this. But fear is not the enemy. Fear is information. Fear appears not because something is wrong, but because something significant is shifting inside you. Here's a truth many never learn. You don't fear change. You fear becoming someone you've never been before, because becoming someone new requires letting go of old identities, challenging your mindset, learning unfamiliar skills, accepting temporary discomfort, stepping into uncertainty, risking being a beginner again. People don't fear failure nearly as much as they fear discomfort, but discomfort is where growth lives. Reinvention does not demand fearlessness. It demands willingness, willingness to try, willingness to learn, willingness to outgrow who you used to be. Fear is a compass pointing toward the edge of your potential. It says, this is the direction where you evolve. And the most important thing to understand is this: fear shrinks when clarity grows. You don't need to feel confident before beginning. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need the full picture. You only need one thing: a direction worth walking toward. Confidence comes later, from steps taken, actions completed, progress earned. This guide will help you build that direction. The next step in your reinvention is identifying the strengths, abilities, and experiences you already have, many of which you may be underestimating or overlooking. You are far more capable than you think. Your current life has hidden ingredients for your next life. Unlocking the skills you already have, the foundation of every successful reinvention. Before a person can reinvent themselves, they must confront a truth most people ignore. You are not starting from zero. You never were. You never will. The biggest lie adults tell themselves, especially after 30, is that reinvention means beginning again with nothing. But nothing could be further from the truth. You have spent years, maybe a decade, maybe 2, building skills you barely notice anymore. You have solved problems without giving yourself credit. You have navigated challenges without acknowledging your intelligence. You have led, adapted, created, improved, adjusted, and survived situations that would have overwhelmed you years ago. You are standing on top of a mountain of invisible experience. You just haven't learned how to see it. Before you can reinvent, you must learn how to interpret the value of what you've already lived. Because reinvention doesn't start with passion, it starts with capability, and you have far more capability than you realize. Chapter 3. The myth of starting over. Why you're more qualified than you think. The moment you begin thinking about a new direction, a fear quickly rises. I'll have to begin from the bottom. This fear keeps thousands of people locked in jobs they've outgrown. It convinces them the next step will erase everything they've built. But here's the truth. Experience never resets. Skills transfer, strengths evolve, and your past becomes the blueprint for your future. Think about it. If someone has spent 10 years solving problems in customer service, they're not unskilled. They have mastered communication, emotional management, conflict resolution, and patience. If someone has worked 5 years in logistics, they're not starting over. They understand organization, planning, timing, and workflow efficiency. But because these strengths feel natural, people assume they're not valuable. That is the mistake. Anything that feels easy to you is often a sign of high skill, not low skill. People underestimate themselves because they measure value incorrectly. They believe value comes from degrees, titles, certifications, awards, or promotions. But companies across the USA, small businesses, startups, remote teams, tech companies, non-profits, all value one thing above everything else: competence. Real, practical, reliable competence. And competence is built through lived experience, not just formal training. You have competence, you just need to recognize it. So here is the first major step of reinvention. Re-evaluate everything you already know. Turn your invisible strengths into visible skills, because the next phase of your life depends less on learning something new and more on understanding what you've already built. Chapter 4. The Skill Audit, a clear method to discover your strengths. Most people say, "I don't know what skills I have." The truth is, they've never sat quietly long enough to look. A skill audit is simple, but transformative. You take a moment to separate 3 things. 1. Skills you have used at work. 2. Skills you use in daily life. 3. Skills you developed without noticing. When you write these down, patterns begin to appear. Let's break them down. 1. Skills you used at work. Every job, even the ones you disliked, taught you something. Consider these questions. What repetitive tasks did you perform smoothly? What problems did people come to you for help with? What responsibilities were assigned to you because you were good at them? What situations required quick thinking, patience, or leadership? What challenges did you overcome that others struggled with? These aren't random tasks. They are indicators of your competence. 2. Skills you use in daily life. Many undervalued skills live outside the workplace. Managing a household, caring for family, handling finances, organizing schedules, planning events, teaching children, resolving conflicts. These are powerful abilities. Americans especially underestimate emotional intelligence, communication, adaptability, and time management, despite these being the most requested traits in modern workplaces. Daily life builds skills silently. Recognize them. 3. Skills you developed without realizing. Some skills form through hardship. Navigating uncertainty, handling stress, budgeting during difficult times, supporting others during crisis, learning new tools or technologies on your own, balancing multiple roles at once. These are not soft skills, they are resilient skills, and they are rare. When companies hire, they don't just hire talent, they hire stability, reliability, and adaptability. You have all 3 because life has already trained you. Reinvention becomes easier the moment you stop calling yourself unqualified. You're not unqualified, you're undiscovered. Chapter 5. Transferable Strengths. Turning what you know into new opening. When people attempt reinvention, they often get stuck on one thought: my experience doesn't match the field I want. But reinvention does not require a perfect match. It requires transferability. Transferable strengths are abilities that apply across industries. They show employers and yourself that you bring value regardless of the job title. Here are the most powerful transferable strengths Americans underestimate. 1. Communication. If you've ever explained something clearly, handled a difficult conversation, helped a confused customer, taught someone a process, you already have communication skills companies pay for. 2. Problem solving. Any moment where you figured something out, even without formal training, is proof of problem-solving ability. This is one of the top 3 skills employers look for today. Organization and planning. Managing schedules, budgets, timelines, routines. These are essential in operations, project management, administration, logistics, marketing, and more. 4. Emotional poise. If you've learned how to stay calm under pressure, you have something rare. 5. Adaptability. Living through career shifts, economic changes, or personal hardship builds adaptability, one of the strongest predictors of long-term success in the USA's evolving job market. The power of reinterpretation. Reinvention is not about finding completely new abilities. It's about reinterpreting the abilities you already have. For example, a teacher can move into corporate training. A retail worker can move into operations or customer success. A restaurant manager can move into project management, HR, or hospitality operations. People reinvent themselves every day by reframing what they know. You are not limited by your past role. You are expanded by your past experience. Chapter 6. Building a new direction. The clarity you need before taking your next step. After identifying your strengths, the next challenge appears. But what should I actually do next? This question freezes people. They assume they must know their end goal before beginning, but direction rarely arrives fully formed. It arrives as a pattern. The 3-question clarity test. Ask yourself, 1. What tasks make me feel engaged instead of exhausted? 2. What do people consistently rely on me for? 3. What kind of problems do I enjoy solving? The intersection of these 3 answers reveals a direction, not perfect, not final but real, and that is enough to begin. Your next chapter is built, not discovered. People wait years for a calling, but callings are not found. Callings are created through action, effort, and exploration. You do not need a perfect plan for the next decade. You need a first step for the next 30 days. Reinvention is a staircase. You see only the next step, not the whole climb. Designing your next direction. How to build real momentum in the next 90 days. Reinvention does not happen by accident. It happens by design, not through massive leaps, not through overnight breakthroughs, not through pressure-filled deadlines or unrealistic expectations. Reinvention happens through consistent, intentional steps that compound over time. Most people fail not because they lack ability. They fail because they lack a structure that guides their energy. A structure creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates progress. And progress is the lifeline of reinvention. In this section, you will learn how to build a 90-day reinvention system, a practical, realistic blueprint that aligns with your strengths, your lifestyle, and your evolving goals. And direction is the most powerful weapon a person can have when reinventing themselves after 30. Let's begin. Chapter 7. The 90-day window. Why 3 months can change everything. A year feels overwhelming. A decade feels unreachable. A lifetime feels impossible. But 90 days is small enough to begin and long enough to transform. 90 days is where momentum lives. Why? Because 90 days is long enough for your brain to rewire habits, long enough for new skills to develop, long enough for confidence to grow, long enough for visible results to appear. Most people never progress because they think too far ahead. They ask, what will I be doing in 5 years? What if I choose the wrong path? What if everything changes again? These questions freeze progress. They force the mind into uncertainty and fear. The solution is deceptively simple. Stop planning your life. Start planning your next 90 days. 90 days is the perfect container. Not intimidating, not unrealistic, not vague, not too slow. 90 days forces clarity. It forces choice. It forces action. And when you commit to a 90-day reinvention cycle, you do something most people never do. You create a structure strong enough to carry you through emotional dips, fear spikes, distractions, and doubt. This is how careers change. This is how lives change. Not all at once, but over 90 days, repeated again and again. Chapter 8. The Reinvention Triangle. Skills, direction, action. Every successful reinvention rests on 3 pillars. Think of them as a triangle: skills, direction, action. If even one side weakens, progress collapses. Let's break them down. 1. Skills. These are the abilities you already possess, the foundation you stand on, the raw material of your new beginning. Without knowing your skills, you walk blind. With clear understanding, you walk with purpose. 2. Direction. This is the pattern you uncovered in the previous section. The intersection of what energizes you, what you're naturally good at, and what problems you enjoy solving. Direction doesn't require perfection. It requires intention. You don't need the whole map. You need a compass. Action. This is where everything becomes real. Not ideas, not dreams, not lists, not wishes. Action. Small, structured, repeatable steps taken daily or weekly. Action is what separates reinvention from fantasy. Most people stay stuck because they try to start with action alone. Action without direction leads to confusion. Direction without skills leads to insecurity. Skills without action lead to stagnation. But when all three align, momentum becomes unstoppable. The 90-day reinvention system ensures all three pillars stay active and connected. Chapter 9. The Reinvention Blueprint. Building your 90-day plan. A 90-day reinvention cycle has 4 phases. Each phase builds on the last, creating clarity, confidence, and measurable progress. Let's walk through each one. Phase 1. Clarity. Days 1 to 15. You are not choosing a final destination. You are choosing a direction worth exploring. During these 15 days, your only job is to define a clear experiment. I want to explore roles in because they align with my strengths in Don. That's it. Not perfection, not certainty, not pressure, just clarity. Once you have this, the next stage begins. Phase 2. Exploration. Days 16 through 45. This phase is where possibilities expand. You research industries, roles, paths, and opportunities connected to your direction. You study job descriptions. You watch tutorial videos. You observe what skills are commonly required. You check where your current skills already match. Most people discover something surprising. They are far more qualified than they thought. Exploration is not passive. It builds confidence. It reveals options. It eliminates anxiety by turning the unknown into something familiar. By day 45, you should have a short list of 3 roles that interest you, 3 skill gaps you can close, 3 steps you're excited to take next. That is enough to continue. Phase 3. Skill building. Days 46-75. This phase is the engine of your reinvention. You dedicate the next 30 days to learning, not in overwhelming amounts, not in unrealistic doses. You learn just enough to elevate your confidence. This might include a short online course, a weekend workshop, a certification, learning a software tool, practicing a skill for 20 minutes daily, building a sample project, following tutorials, creating a small portfolio piece. Do not underestimate the power of small, consistent practice. In 30 days, a person can become shockingly competent at almost anything they commit to. The goal isn't mastery. The goal is movement. By day 75, you should feel stronger. Phase 4. Implementation. Days 76-90. This is where your reinvention becomes visible. You start applying what you've learned. You begin reaching out. You begin adopting the behaviors of your future self. What does this include? Updating your resume. Creating a modern, clear portfolio. Rewriting your LinkedIn summary. Applying for roles that match your new direction. Sending connection requests to people in your field, having short informational conversations, presenting your new skills through small projects, taking on small freelance or volunteer assignments. This phase creates momentum in the real world. Your confidence shifts, your self-image expands, your opportunities increase, your energy grows. By the end of this cycle, you're not only thinking about a new life, you're building one. Chapter 10. Overcoming emotional resistance, the hidden battle of reinvention. Reinvention is not just strategic, it is emotional. In fact, the emotional journey is often harder than the practical one. Here are the 4 emotional barriers that stop most people and how to move past them. 1. Imposter thoughts. These thoughts whisper, "You're not qualified, you're not experienced enough, you're not capable." But imposter thoughts are not warnings. They are indicators that you're operating outside your old identity. They show that you're expanding. Every person who grows feels this. The emotion doesn't mean you're unprepared. 2. Perfection pressure. This pressure says, wait until you understand everything. Don't start until you're an expert. Learn more before taking action. Perfection is just fear wearing a costume. It looks responsible, it sounds logical, but it kills momentum. You need progress, not perfection. Take imperfect action. You can refine later. Comparison traps. You begin measuring your progress against others. They're ahead. They're younger. They're smarter. They're more connected. Comparison is a thief. It steals confidence, creativity, and clarity. Remember this. You are building something unique. Your journey will not resemble anyone else's. Your timeline is valid. Your progress is real. Focus on your next step, not someone else's result. 4. Emotional fatigue. Some days you will feel tired. Some days you will doubt yourself. Some days you will want to quit. This is normal. This is expected. This is part of the process. You are not failing. You are rewiring your life. When fatigue appears, slow down but do not stop. Momentum is built by discipline, not by inspiration. The people who win are not the strongest or the smartest or the most connected. They are the ones who continue. Chapter 11. Building the identity of your future self. Reinvention is not only about learning new skills. It is about becoming someone who thinks differently, acts differently, chooses differently. Identity shifts slowly, but powerfully. Here are the identity traits that emerge when you commit to a 90-day transformation. Confidence through action, calm through clarity, strength through discipline, hope through progress, purpose through alignment. As you build these traits, something profound happens. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to reinvent. You begin seeing yourself as someone who is reinventing. This identity shift makes everything easier, everything smoother, everything more possible, because when you change how you see yourself, you change what you believe you can do. And when you change what you believe you can do, you change your entire future. The real reward of your journey is not the new career, the new role, or the new opportunity. The real reward is the person you have become on the way to it. Reinvention reshapes you quietly at first, then powerfully. It refines how you think. It strengthens how you choose. It elevates how you speak to yourself. It sharpens your decisions. It builds a resilience you never knew you had. You begin noticing the shift. Your doubts lose their authority. Your setbacks no longer break you. Your fear becomes a teacher, not a barrier. Your goals become clearer, more aligned, more honest. Your self-respect deepens because you've earned it. This is what becoming your next self feels like. Not a dramatic transformation, but a steady unveiling of someone more capable, more grounded, more intentional. A version of you that takes responsibility instead of waiting. A version of you that acts with direction instead of drifting. A version of you that adapts instead of resisting. A version of you that grows instead of shrinking. You begin to believe in yourself not because someone told you to, but because you now have evidence of your own strength. Reinvention didn't make you different. It helped you become more of who you were always capable of being. Continuing the journey, your life beyond reinvention, your story doesn't end here. It expands from here, because reinvention is not a one-time act. It is a lifelong skill, a mindset, a steady commitment to never letting life shrink you again. You now know how to create clarity when things feel confusing. You know how to build direction when the future feels uncertain. You know how to take action when fear meets you at the door. You have learned the art of transforming your life on your own terms. From this point forward, you will recognize when something no longer aligns with you, adjust before stagnation sets in, evolve before fear traps you, grow before comfort limits you. You have become someone who knows how to redirect their life, someone who knows how to rise again and again, someone who refuses to let their story end too soon. Your next opportunities are waiting. Your next version is ready. Your next chapter is open. All that's left is the decision to keep growing, to keep leading yourself, to keep choosing the life that matches your potential, because this isn't the end of your journey. This is the beginning of everything you're capable of becoming. If this journey spoke to you, If you feel your direction shifting, if you're ready to build a life designed by intention instead of circumstance, subscribe now. Join a space where growth is constant, clarity is possible, and reinvention is something you never have to face alone. Your next chapter deserves guidance, your future deserves momentum, and you deserve a community that believes in your evolution. Subscribe and keep becoming the person your future needs.